completely spontaneous. I just had actually made a post that I wasn't going to be making any content this week, but over the past hour and a half, which is kind of what life is like for me right now, I just had this really weird feeling that I needed to go live and to make some content. I'm actually going to put this on the podcast as well. So I want to talk about something that's been on my mind lately, and this is particularly since I actually watched the last episode of a series on Netflix called Beef. Now, I binge watched this over the last couple of days because my favorite YouTube creator, ZDoggMD, Dr. Zubin Damania, actually made a video on the last episode of this and talked about the parallels with awakening. And I wanted to spend something that I feel like he didn't touch upon, but that I really noticed and is particularly true with chronic illnesses like IIH and migraines. I've mentioned in the past about that there was like a valley and then your darkest point, and then you slowly come out into the light, at least with my journey. And especially I feel that way because it's been that I've actually gotten fairly decent amount of my life actually back. I've been very thankful to have reached remission with IIH, kept my weight off, stayed in remission, haven't had to come back for any unexplained reason. My migraines are also very well under control, so that also helps. But I don't want to spend much time talking about that. I just want to say this thing that I want to talk about today, which is darkness leading into light, is something that I first really experienced with my chronic illness, and and excuse me, it's a hard time right now. So this darkness into light was something I experienced with that, but it is very true right now. And okay, just gotta pause for a second, guys. I'm kind of emotional right now because it's been a bit of a rough period with regards to like awakening. It's kind of why I feel like I haven't really felt the need to put out content. And I love making content. I really do. It's just that I pretty much can only do the spontaneous stuff lately. So if I'm not feeling it, it doesn't happen, which is kind of why I didn't share this anywhere. This wasn't announced. You guys know I kind of go live around this time, around the week anyways, but that is getting extremely difficult to do. So like, I think moving forward, I'm not going to have much of a schedule, at least until I get over this next kind of, I don't even know what to call it. To call it a hurdle is not fair to the awakening process. It's not fair to this experience with non-duality, but it's not really a withdrawal. It's just I have to be feeling something in the moment in order to be able to talk about something, because there really is only the now that exists. And it's kind of why it's really hard to talk about my life with IIH and migraines, because that is in the past. It's not happening right in this moment. If I have a period where I feel like I'm experiencing migraine symptoms, I can talk about it, but it's not the same as when I was the most sick. So essentially what I want to get into this with is that photograph, which I'm on my mobile phone right now, so I can't bring it up, but essentially what I show is that darkness leading into the valley and then coming back out into the light is kind of how it feels with like kind of right now. And like your biggest periods of suffering that you experience in this lifetime sometimes change you the most. Now, sometimes it is not a very positive way that it feels like it changes you. But I do feel like my suffering or whatever that happened was not all a negative thing. And it's weird to say that because it feels like in the moment that you are completely suffering. And to a certain degree, that's true. But it's just like, I don't really know how to explain this. Like, it's been really, really hard emotionally lately. Like, and like, I'm feeling things so much more strongly, which is kind of an interesting thing because when you deal with very strong emotions, having migraines, you can actually trigger a migraine. And yet, I've had the least amount of suffering with migraines that I've had in years. And so it's very strange. Now, it's not cured, but it seems like the relationship with my migraines has changed. If that makes any sense whatsoever, it probably won't. But I just needed to come on here and talk about this darkness into light, because one of the things that stuck out to me in the last episode was the way that the last kind of episode was structured, so that, the darkest part of the night kind of thing was the deepest discovery. And that particular part stuck out to me the most because I felt that way with my journey with migraines and IIH, which is not over, it's just changed a little bit. And I don't know. I never want to say that I'm completely done with IIH, but it seems like it's in remission and it's under control right at the moment. So, like, it's very hard for me to fully conclude that it will never come back. But it's also like, I don't know. It's just really hard to describe. So, but anyways, when you're suffering and kind of lost everything is generally when you tend to have the most insight, I would say, in probably pretty much anything. It's extremely difficult to put this into words because unless you've been through a really big case of suffering or you've experienced something that rocks your world essentially in that way, you're probably not gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, which it's true with a health issue, but in my opinion, this is also true when it comes to this journey with whatever journey I'm on right now. Because I know I've had the feeling lately of I feel like I'm dying, essentially. And I don't want to freak out my family. If you guys happen to be watching this, I know you guys tend to like to watch my content. I'm not my ego is dying, so the body feels like it's gonna die. But it's not the same as, I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression that I'm like depressed or anything, because that's not the case. It's just when you're going through a very strong change in the way you perceive reality, and that you find out everything that you thought was real is not, you cannot wrap your mind around it, and yet the physical and emotional sensations that you feel are so strong at times. And it is essentially like an ego death, but it's not. I don't know the proper words to put to this because I'm not an expert when it comes to talking about this, but just check out some of the stuff I like to watch, and hopefully it can kind of help a little bit. But essentially, it's been a very, very rough time emotionally, and you feel everything so deeply. Now, I think I've had multiple shifts over the last few years. My first one, I believe, was in 2019. Now, that's when I asked the question, who am I? which is kind of your first often deep dive into this, and it shifts everything. And I remember posting on Facebook going, who am I? Because I can never find the I. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. What is this? And so that was kind of my first shift. But the one that's been most significant has kind of happened a little bit more slowly in the weeks since I went on my meditation retreat. And I don't know if nobody's ever really told me that they sense anything different. And I don't know, maybe they just don't feel the need to ask. But in the weeks since my retreat, which is now going on several months, I went in November, end of October, start of November. So like it's been a decent amount of time now. And things continue to constantly shift. And things continue to constantly change. And the thing is although I'm talking about this on my YouTube channel to a point, because it parallels a lot with some of the things I experience with my IIH and migraines, this is all that matters to me. And although you don't hear me talking about it, it's because essentially I can't talk about it. This journey is not possible to really honestly put into words. And when I started meditating in 2019, I didn't expect it to lead to this. I didn't expect anything that has happened, especially recently, to happen. And, it's not just the fact that I'm a lot more emotional all of the times of the month rather than just leading up to my period. It's the fact that emotions will hit you out of nowhere. It's the fact that you can be laughing so hard at something someone said to like being curled up in a ball on the floor because of the emotions in the next. Like it is a roller coaster. And I've talked about how difficult emotions, and emotions in particular, affect those of us with IIH and migraines. And so I went through that whole thing with up and down emotions and how exhausting it can be with my IIH and migraines. Both of them, different times. So like, it's not really possible for me to fully explain how I feel. But this part of the deepest darkness tends to lead to the greatest light has rung so true. Now, I do think that it is paralleling some beliefs. So to hold it loosely, like, it's not guaranteed that if you're in a really, really dark period, or that you feel you are, that light, something better is up ahead. Like, I feel like people with chronic illnesses are told that all of the time, and for some of us, that period of darkness lasts a very, very long time. But I do think that it's very true that you can only get so far down and then you start to come back up again. And sometimes the ascension is slow and sometimes it's a lot quicker. Just like sometimes your roughest periods of time can be, feel like you're falling off of a cliff, and other times it's slowly descending. I don't know which one is worse, honestly. I don't think talking about that is really important, to be quite honest, either. But yeah, so I wanted to just come on here and just talk about that, because I think it's really, really important to just, mention that particular fact. So, if you're wondering why there's been not as much content recently, it's not just because I've been really busy. It's because I really honestly am struggling right now to put what I'm feeling into words, and that it just, like, usually I take breaks because I have to in order to not only not burn out overall, but, you know, it resets my creativity and gives me new ideas. This time, though, I can't explain it, but it doesn't seem to be changing anything. And I know you guys prefer shorts and all of that, so I'm hoping to continue with that. Like, I've got so much content to go through to put out shorts, but the person that you're seeing now is so not the same as even who I was in the most recent shorts, which is that video that I did, like the big long video that those are clipped from, was only like a week or so after retreat. So it was, I feel like I'm a completely different person from back then. And like, I don't know, it's really difficult to explain. But, you know, if you're interacting with me because you know me from, you know, Z's community, or I gotta get used to calling him Zubin. If you're used to seeing me or interacting with me on Zubin's community, I am a lot more open about this particular part of my life over there because we have a group of people that are going through the exact same thing and are interested in this particular topic, not IIH and migraines, but the awakening, spirituality, non-duality stuff. And so because I know that I'm comfortable talking about it there, and I honestly feel very relieved when I hear some of the stuff that they're talking about, because it's a human experience, I think, to search for validation, which is why I even have the channel to begin with. Like, when I was first diagnosed with IIH and migraines, I wanted to really find someone who could validate what I was going through and how I was feeling about the situations that I was being put in. And it wasn't really there on YouTube. Like, it wasn't really a thing. So I decided to fill that void, and I've met some amazing people, of course, through sharing my own story. And I love the fact that we have a place that we can share our stories and feel comfortable with that whole thing. But, you know, now I'm feeling a little bit different because I'm just not able to, you know, find a way of expressing myself with this whole path and all of that. It's very difficult to explain because, number one, I don't like talking about this because I've always considered your spirituality as quite a personal thing. Like, it should be kept very personal. Like, because I feel that way, I don't want to really talk about it. Like, even my family doesn't really know how deep I am into this particular part of my life and how much this matters to me. Which on one hand is sad, but on another hand, number two, is I know people aren't ready to hear or talk about this kind of thing. And it can be extremely destabilizing to listen to this type of stuff and not be ready for it, because even just listening to someone talk about this type of stuff can actually be a trigger and actually, you know, it can cause a shift, essentially. And I know that if you're not ready for that, it's not something that you want. And that's perfectly fine. Like, you know, whether you are interested or not interested in that, I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot more talking about my experience with this. And not so much, well, it does affect my IIH and migraines, because let's be real, when I'm going through a difficult time, it can leave me more prone to experiencing flare-ups in my chronic illnesses. But that, on the other hand, as much, and getting into this darkness and lightness and all of that, it can also be a huge benefit. Like, I think this stuff is more therapy, and this stuff it's better than a therapist at times. And I've said that about just sharing my overall story on YouTube, just in general, but that is how I feel about this whole situation. So although videos might not be on a consistent basis, I'm hoping that going forward whenever I feel the need to just talk and almost make a video diary, whether you want to watch it or not, that's completely up to you. I feel like I want to document this part and how it affects my life with my migraines. I don't know how it would affect life with IIH. As far as I'm concerned, that's in the past. And I will still continue with the theme, of course, because people still find my old content. But if you're kind of wanting to know what it's like being on this journey, I think I'm going to be sharing a lot more about my journey with non-duality moving forward, because not only does it affect my life with migraines, but it's all I care about. It's all I care about. And that I think is really important to talk about. So, yeah, that's so lightness into darkness. Your darkest times sometimes lead to your greatest insights. And that's not only true for managing chronic pain, but it's true with everything else, it seems like, as well. And no matter what, like, there's a lot of, motivational speakers that often talk about how you don't learn anything unless you're going through hard times. Or I know I've often said that I wouldn't be the person who I am today if it wasn't for how I felt and was dealing with IIH and all of that. And so these times of darkness, although there's a lot of suffering, it has led to my greatest insights. And I think that is something, if you take anything out of this, use your chronic illness as a learning thing. Not only about, who truly cares about you, let's be honest, as much as people say they care, you really find out who your truest friends are after a few months of having a chronic illness, because most people just stop caring, and then it gets to the point of, oh, you're still dealing with that? Yeah, you're still dealing with that. It doesn't go away just because everything appears to be perfectly fine. Like, even now, I can kind of distract from the topic because I have a full-time job, or, pretty much full-time job, and all of that. So there isn't the whole conversation that I feel like I need to have with someone about why I can't work. So that is, kind of not as much of an issue anymore. But when I have a migraine or whatever, people don't really truly understand what the difference is between someone they know having a migraine and me having a migraine and what I've been through. And I never talk about this stuff off of my social media platforms. Like, I really do try and make it look like I'm as normal as possible, because number one, and also too, with like this whole journey with non-duality, people have no idea. Most people don't even know I have a daily meditation practice. Like, a lot of people do know that, but they don't really realize the importance of it to me. And it's not that I don't want to ever share, but because it's so personal and because it's something that I think is so critical to myself personally, I just don't feel the need to talk about it. And I don't really want to talk about it. It's not, I don't know. It's really hard to explain the why I don't want to talk about it, and I really shouldn't be justified, or I shouldn't really have to justify why I don't want to talk about it. But basically, unless you're in my very close inner circle or, in those communities with me, you have no idea, because that's just what I choose to share. And, it is getting harder because it's an authenticity thing, but, most of the time it just isn't important to share it. And, I really feel like I kind of wish there wasn't this pressure on us to have to justify either why you're not currently working or why you haven't gone to extra schooling, or the why of, like, why does it matter to people? It really feels like either A, I'm trying to validate why I'm not at a place where you expect me to be, or B, that I am not maybe meeting your expectations of, what society thinks is acceptable for whatever age I'm at. That's, I've kind of always been a little bit of a rebel when it comes to how I feel with that particular part in societal expectations. But that is, I think, only growing stronger as I go down this path. So, yeah. I don't know, though. I really don't know what's real anymore, honestly. So, that's essentially what I wanted to get into today, was this really, really deep, dark, emotional hardships or struggles that you have can sometimes lead to your greatest insights. So, like, your suffering is perfectly validated, but, there may be a point behind it, there may not be. And if there isn't, or doesn't feel like there's a point of why, maybe it's just because it's not time for it to reveal itself yet. I don't really know what else I want to say about that, but I probably also went completely off topic. But I kind of talk from the places that are kind of on my mind, and because these are live when I film them and share them, that's the reality. It's life unedited, essentially. So that's what I wanted to get into today. And so, yeah, if you guys are enjoying the content, feel free to subscribe and all of that. Hit the like button. If you guys are wanting more shorter clips, let me know that. I don't really know how consistent even shorts is going to be, because I don't know, some of this stuff just feels like it's like I'm trying to please an algorithm at this point, rather than actually sharing my actual content. And like, I really just want to do these live shows whenever I feel like it and forget about the rest of it. Like, just kind of, hey, I'm feeling like going live right now, let's go live, kind of thing. I am going to put this up on the podcast too, and all of that. You got some pretty raw, emotional stuff in this one. That's just how it is right now. I have emotional periods more than I used to. But know that I'm okay. Everything is perfectly fine. I'm actually probably doing the best I've ever done in my life, honestly, right now. It's just that with this journey, really strong emotions can do and will come up. And if you're not feeling into you're just not diving into the actual work, in my opinion. It's at this point, it's a type of shadow work, but like, these emotions are definitely passing more quickly too. So yeah, again, and you guys know where to find me on social media, so feel free to follow me off of social media. But honestly, like, so much has changed with content that, like, I may share something in the moment and I may not. That's just the reality of the situation. But I think that's where I'm going to end this one for today. Thanks for joining me if you did. Thanks for watching on the replay if you watch this on the replay. For a lot of you, this probably won't make a lot of sense. That's completely fine. If you're wanting to look into this more because it touches you in a certain way, check out a couple of channels. I follow these channels also. So Simply Always Awake and Suzanne Non-Duality, as well as Zubin's videos, ZDoggMD. And I think if you can relate to this type of stuff in any way, then give them a try and a follow, and maybe you'll find, a few of them that resonate with you. Oh, fourth one. Violet Synergy is another one I really, really like. So yeah, those few channels, if you're interested in this particular topic of the only thing that matters to me at this point in my life. And yeah, so life has changed quite a bit since the meditation retreat. And I am doing very, very well, despite the fact that it may look like in the moment that I'm struggling a little bit. So these emotions, I'm lucky they don't come at the wrong time. But you know, they come when they come, and it's living in the moment. Time really doesn't mean anything. It's a really strange concept to talk about, actually. So, yeah, I'm just going to stop rambling now because I'm at 30 minutes. It's amazing how quickly this goes when I'm talking about this topic. So, yeah, hope to see you guys soon. Love you, and thanks for all your support. Bye for now.